Hello, this is Gamer1745 here, and we're going to take a look at Democracy 4. Now, before I get into that, if you're new here, please hit the subscribe button, and of course you can give this video a thumbs up, or if you don't, after listening to what I have to say, don't like it, you can give it a thumbs down. All right. The makers of the game graciously sent me a key for the game for me to play and check out and present to you guys. And I don't know that they're going to like what I have to say about the game. Sorry. But I've got to say it. So this game was, and I looked up the company there, I believe an English-based company based in England, which is fine. But they either don't really know anything about the American political structure. I'm not talking about what different parties believe, and we'll talk a little bit more about some of the stuff over here. Either they don't know about the American political structure, or they're intentionally trying to lie to you, to misinform you, to give you bad information about the American political system. And again, I don't know the makers of the game at all and what they think, believe, but this really looks to be, I mean, who knows, they may agree with me 100% politically on things. That doesn't matter. I'm just judging purely from what I'm seeing here. It looks to me that this is a left-wing attempt to undermine the American political system. I've briefly just gotten about this far, just looking at the British one. It is a different sort of makeup than this. That was the main thing I was looking at it. And I don't know, I think I know more about Britain than they know about America, but I don't know enough to really judge that. But I know enough to judge a lot of what's going on with this. This, and of course, as the title will have said, what's wrong with Democracy 4? And there's a lot here. Okay. I don't know where to start. Okay. Prison. Okay. I like how that they explain how these different groups, one, a voter or a citizen or whatever they want to consider it, can be a member of more than one of these groups, and how each of these groups are influenced by different factors, as we see. I really, in many ways, I really think the structure, and this is, really hadn't looked at the game much before I had the opportunity to ask for a key to the game, and I really liked the concept of it, but I thought they would be doing better. So you can see into farmers. Here's the positive and negative things going into what farmers feel about stuff. Okay, so that element is good, but well, okay, like prison regime here. So we can come in here and do this. Change the slider here for funding, and you gain or lose support, revert changes of the different interest groups that would be affected by this. Now, and you're playing here as best, and if I got something wrong, whether it's the developers or whether it's other viewers want to correct me below, yeah, prove me wrong, tell me why I'm wrong. I'd be happy to be wrong. But you come here, we can look, here's the cabinet. Okay, you're basically, as my understanding, yeah, they're using this sort of the British term cabinet ministers. In America, we have cabinet secretaries. I don't know how hard it would, and that doesn't matter, that it is different here versus Britain and many of the European countries. But prison regime. I quickly looked it up, and it is about 20% of prisoners, and this was a 2013 stat, so not too recent, but not too old. 20% of the prisoners in the United States, according to that, were in federal prisons. So that leaves 80% of prisoners not in federal prisons. So this doesn't matter in America, okay? This liberal conservative, what? They're all in state prisons. So the federal government has no real significant influence here. There's like nothing they can do. Also here, oh no, it's jury trial, where some of these, I know there's freedom of the press. No, I'm looking for the court. Private prisons. Now, see, this is another thing here. Private prisons. What can the United States president, tell me, what can the United States president do about private prisons? Nothing. Because there are no federal private prisons. Those are all state private prisons. They exist in the United States in some states. There is, what, are you in the American government system? What can you do? Because it does say in the United States Constitution, all rights not or explicitly given to the federal government, all things not are withheld for the state government. So, meaning the federal government cannot make laws in areas that it's not allowed to, unless it says it in the Constitution. And nowhere in the Constitution does it say it gets to make laws about how states, whether private or public prisons. So there is nothing. I mean, the president, and presidents often do this, come up and make speeches. You should abolish private prisons. And then he can go to sleep because there's nothing more he can do, because Congress can't pass laws that they won't stand up against the Supreme Court. And there's nothing the president can do other than make noise about it. And it's up to each individual state to do that. The federal government does not have that power. Okay, there's legal aid. No, that's not. Okay, legal aid. Huh? Legal aid. How does the federal government do it? Now, they will, and see, if you do not have a lawyer and cannot afford a lawyer, the court will appoint you a lawyer. Now, I don't know beyond this here, minimum, I don't know how this is meaningful here, this slider bar. Meaning, they have sort of fixed fees for legal aid, per, what the lawyer can charge the government. So the lawyer gets to bill the government. It's at fixed rates. So obviously, if you're a lawyer who can make more doing something else, or there are some lawyers that are rich enough or just don't care about making money, that will take cases for not being paid, but they will pay sort of minimum lawyer fees as whatever the local standards. Again, this is all mostly state, though I guess if you're in federal court, they will provide that. So I don't know what that is supposed to mean. Jury trial, but here, this is the one that really made me go, what's wrong with this game here? Judicial Independence. Now, I don't know a lot about the British court system and how it's picked. Meaning, I have absolutely no idea. I have no idea how they pick who a judge is. Okay. Now, most judges in America are state judges. Meaning they're within, they're from the states. The federal government can do the president and the federal government can absolutely do nothing about those judges. And they are elected, at least in the state of California, and I think in most states, they are popularly elected. Judges stand for election. So they're popularly elected and they get reelected. So the judge in American state system, at least I know in the state of California where I'm from, I don't know all 50 states, the laws, but they are elected. So they are elected. So I don't know what they are. The state Supreme Court is appointed by the governor, confirmed by the state Senate in the state of California. Again, I don't know the other 50 states. Now, in the federal system, which the president gets to affix, to set up, there is, in America, no judicial independence, or there is total judicial independence. And what do I mean by that? Again, these people who made this game have absolutely no idea what's going on. Is all judges, all federal judges, this is what the president would get to do, are appointed by the president of the United States. He can appoint anybody he wants. Says, that guy sleeping on the street corner over there, he's going to be a judge. Now, they then have to be confirmed, all federal judges have to be confirmed by the United States Senate. So he has to pick something that he can get a majority until what used to be a 60 votes, until Harry Reid, the Democratic speaker or majority leader of the Senate, Harry Reid, changed it to just a majority vote. But it had been 60. Now it's just down to 50. You need to get 50 votes. And then whoever the president picks, if he can get 50 senators to agree with him. I say 50 because if there's a tie, 50-50, the vice president gets to cast a tie vote. And presumably the vice president will vote with the president. So you need to just get 50 senators to agree with you. And that is the same for the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court, the president gets to pick whoever he wants to put on the Supreme Court. It's just up to the Senate to confirm the person on the Supreme Court. But once they are picked for either a judgeship or on the Supreme Court, it is for life. Okay? So once they're there, and this is what a lot of Republican presidents have often picked people that they ended up really disliking that they picked them because they're not quite as conservative as they thought they were. So once they're there, in the American system, there's nothing the U.S. president can do about the judicial independence. There is no, slider thing. There's nothing they can do about this. Now you want to go, hey, gamer, it's just a game. Get over it. Well, one of the things on my channel is I try to use games to teach history. Well, this isn't history. This is civics. And so it's close enough to it. So they're teaching bad civics here. So the judiciary is either entirely under the president as who gets to be a judge, but once they're a judge, they are 100% independent. So there is no slider bar, whatever. And there are you can impeach judges. That I don't think you can get rid of a Supreme Court judge, but you can impeach other judges for like corruption, from the Senate. But that is a really difficult situation and basically doesn't happen because they're going to, if they're committed a felony and they get arrested, they're just going to resign. I mean, it's not, they're not staying around. So that is what is wrong. So this whole judiciary slider bar thing is wrong. What else? Okay, here. Well, yeah, tobacco tax. Yeah, there is a federal tobacco tax. Just looking around, but it was really the court thing that really got me going. Arts subsidies, yes, federal government can do a lot of that. Okay, schooling. Here we go. This is another thing. There is very little that the federal government can do about schooling here. Oh, it's food. What is this? Food Standards Agency. Okay. This is the best food standards agency. You couldn't do FDA, Food and Drug Administration. Okay, well, but basically, there's very little the federal government can do it because they give money to the states, and the states do administer the school systems in them, basically. There might be some direct aid to some schools, but it is really mostly that. Okay, policing here, community policing here. Basically, and we can go into exceptions, but basically, the federal government has little or no policing in the United States, and has little or no policing authority within the United States, the federal government. So, and I get community policing that they talk about here, and community policing, working with the community rather than attempting to control it. Are they just mean, because when they say community policing in America, now I don't know exactly what they're referring to in Britain where this is made, but community policing in America is setting up to have left-wing people run around and tell everybody what to do based upon social justice, intersectionalism, and whatnot. Because community policing, this is a meaningless statement here, and so community policing. There's nothing. The president. There basically is no federal police in America. Again, it is up to the states. There is the Federal Marshal's Service. Yes, it exists. They look for people that have jumped bail from a federal court or some such thing. The FBI. They don't community police. They only deal with certain types of cases. Often, one of the things that can get the FBI in is corrupt police. That is something that they can do. And so CCTV cameras. Huh? What? I know this is a big thing in Britain. I think London is one of the most CCTV covered cities in the world, but I'm not sure about that. But they are one of the bigger ones for density coverage. And now, okay, you want to go, yeah, gamer. What about Washington, D.C.? Yeah, okay, Washington, D.C., the Federal Reserve, if you will, the District of Columbia there is a Federal Reserve. Yes, there is a mayor. They control the local D.C. police, but there's also the Capitol Police, which those of you overseas, the Capitol Police guard the Capitol building. Just like the building, the congressmen and the House, the representative members of the House of Representatives, and the Senate, and the building, and maybe their parking lot, and there was, because some of Steve Scalise had a security team of Capitol Police when a Democrat tried to assassinate a bunch of them, and I mean the only person that died was the attacker, but some of his security, Capitol Police security detail, all the rest of the congressmen don't get security details. But so what was it? They tried to assassinate 15, 20 U.S. congressmen. The guy did, the Democrat. He was a Bernie Sanders volunteer and supporter and worked in that. So he was a Democratic activist. So the Capitol, and so Congress is sort of like the Congress police force, if you will, and they can leave D.C., because that was outside of D.C. where they were practicing the baseball game. But we're talking, so there's like the Capitol Police is this, I don't know, probably 100 people. I don't know if it's even that many that protect the Capitol building, not the White House, just, where the big dome Capitol building is. There's Capitol Park Police. They guard the parks where the tourists go, and like the Lincoln Monument and the Washington Monument, there they guard that as opposed to just the city cops. So there's, and yeah, those are all in one way or another federal police, but that's Washington, D.C. So CCTV cameras outside of Washington, D.C., outside of a federal, if it's on a federal prison or on a federal courthouse, yeah, they get to look out, but the feds don't do anything more than that. So again, this has nothing to do with the federal government. Body cameras, again. Okay, body cameras on who? The Capitol Police, the FBI. That's all they can do. Congress, again, and I misstated earlier, all powers not specifically given to the federal government by the Constitution of the United States are withheld for the states. So if it doesn't say that Congress can tell police what to do, like wear body cameras, and it doesn't in the Constitution, there's nothing the president and the federal government can do about body cameras. They can't do anything about them. They can grant money to police departments, sure, and they do that all the time. And they can even say a line item, this money is only for the use of buying of body cameras. Okay, doesn't mean they have to wear them. Doesn't mean they have to accept the money. It just maybe can only go for, body cameras, so they can hand out body cameras, but it doesn't mean that they get to use them or mandate get to use them. Okay, gay marriage, yeah, that's something that can be dealt with at the federal level. Gated communities, this was another one. What the hell? A drastic solution to serious street crime and vandalism. Gated communities are basically self-policed residential areas. Very true. They are popular with the wealthy, but often associated with class divide and inequality. Okay, that's quite true. As the only relative wealthy can afford to live inside of them. As a result, some governments are reluctant to permit their construction. Okay. Well, my grandparents lived inside of a community called Leisure World that did have was its own gated community, but no one would call them wealthy. You had to make sure you had to buy sort of like a condominium kind of place there and prove that you had enough money to be able to pay the fees for the rest of your life. So you couldn't be a poor old person, but you can look up Leisure World if you want to do, and there's actually sort of two of them here in California, one sort of fancy and one the original less fancy. I still have other relatives living inside of Leisure World, and it is a gated community. You have to get permission to enter and leave, and that's part of it. They're old guys that, old retirement guys. I don't even know that they're like cops that sort of watch it, meaning anybody can just push their way in, and they call the real police if there's a problem. They just sort of, gate guards. A lot of these communities are just gate guards. But again, what possible indifferent, encouraged? Okay, well, I don't see what the president or the federal government has any possible influence over gated communities. Meaning, the government, the president, okay, and this minister, there's absolutely nothing a federal government can do about this. So I encouraged. I just don't like the president comes out and gave a speech yesterday and saying you ought to build a gate around your community. Oh my God, what's going to happen next? What? Nothing. Okay. Nothing. Okay. Armed police. Arming the police officers can be an effective strategy to determine crime and maintain order. Opponents would argue that it encourages criminals to use firearms as in a criminal arms race. Critics also worry that the police will distance themselves from law-abiding citizens. Okay. Again, what can the federal government do about it? Since the federal government has no authority over local and state police. They only have some ability over some laws that, over dealing with corruption of officials. And then it's even very limited there. So, so unless they're breaking the law somehow, the federal government has no authority here. So I don't get this one, how this can be a thing in this game here. Be something that the close. No, Robert. Whatever. So again, the federal government has no authority there. Prison regime, we looked at that somewhat. Speed cameras. Well, this shouldn't even be here. Speed cameras are no longer in America. They were found to be unconstitutional because they did not have a witness. So, and they were doing it all without that. So speed cameras, at least in my state, are gone. And I think they were found to be unconstitutional. So speed cameras, now I don't know the courts and whatever in some other state, but in the state of California, they were found to be unconstitutional and speed cameras are gone. So speed may be enforced by radar, meaning that there can be somebody with a radar thing that sits there and goes, oh, it detects somebody speeding, and then the police officer hears the beep, looks up, and oh, there's that car speeding, let me go catch him. But there is no speed cameras anymore in America. And this is Democracy 4 just coming out, so that should not be a thing. Again, correct me if I'm wrong, if in your state here in America allows them, but then again, they're either allowed by the Constitution or they're not allowed by the Constitution. And the federal government has no say over it because the federal government does regulate the speed on Army bases because they're pretty low. I don't know if any of you have ever driven on an Army. Well, actually, I don't know if I've ever been on an Army base. I've been on Marine Corps and Navy bases. My dad worked for the Navy. Wasn't in the Navy, but worked for the Navy as a Defense Department kind of guy. So I was on a lot of naval, and I used to go all the time onto one Navy base. But yeah, so they regulate, and I never had a speed camera that I've ever heard of, but yeah, they regulate and will give you speeding tickets on the base if you're going too fast. Yes, but that is a different thing. But that's just literally on a base, or maybe in a national park, because that's a federal thing. Yeah, but yeah, that's the limit of where, even if they could, but I don't think they've ever done. Tear gas. Again, yeah, and I know you've probably seen the various, and they're from several federal agencies that have been protecting literally the courthouse, or sort of federal building, which often holds other, the courthouse, the federal courthouse, and other federal offices in Portland or Seattle or both, that various federal marshals are using tear gas, but those are just the federal marshals, and they're just protecting that. So, but all the police everywhere else has again, no authority of the federal government. I know I'm poking holes. Again, water cannons, that would be local. I guess federal could have it. Witness protection program. Okay, yeah, that is actually a federal program. But you need to basically be in a federal case for that to happen. Tasers, again, sort of like the other thing. Rubber bullets, again, yeah. Prisoner tagging. Guess like ankle bracelets and whatever. Okay, but how many federal prisoners, something like that? Yeah. Private, we already sort of looked at that. Gender transition. Healthcare demands. We'll come over to healthcare in a minute. I don't really get what gender discrimination. Okay, now here, gender discrimination. Yeah, that is something that is shown. Gender and race is something that is needs to be treated under the United States Constitution everywhere equally. So laws that treat either one gender different or than another gender, or laws that treat one racial group different than other racial groups are unconstitutional. And the federal government can enforce those laws. But who do they mostly enforce them against? Oh yeah, state and local governments not obeying the law or having laws that don't. Okay, now let's public services. Okay, let's look at this here for a moment. State Postal Service. Yes, under the United States Constitution, this is a constitutional thing, one of the very few things in the Constitution. I don't know, this is meaningless here. Okay, under the United States Constitution, it establishes a postal service, a post office, for national letter delivery. And I don't understand, or these people don't understand what is, let's to revert changes here, spending more money, less money on it. The federal government does not spend money on the U.S. Postal Service. So, yeah, the government doesn't spend any money here. Again, these people don't know anything about the U.S. government. The Postal Service is paid for by postage stamps. Now, there's a lot of problems going on, and there's a lot of deficits, and the post office is about ready to run out of money, and it's trying to get the federal government to give them money until they can, because, the federal government also gets to tell them how much they get to charge. So this is the problem. The federal government gets to tell the post office what it can charge for letters and shipping and whatnot. So the federal government does tell the post office it's going to be 23 cents or 33 cents or whatever it is per envelope that you can charge. And that isn't enough because, one, it's bloated and overpaid. Two, it's just it's mismanaged and other things. But the Postal Service is basically, I presume it's the president gets to appoint a postmaster general. But so basically the federal government doesn't spend money on this, basically, not as so like in this game here. Technology colleges. Okay, healthcare. Don't know what affects. Okay, I'm trying to. Violent. Okay, obesity. Food standards, health, unemployment. I don't know. Okay, car usage. I get that you're driving around and not walking. Though, there's a lot of fat people in New York, and no one drives in New York, so I don't know how that is. Food prices. Don't know. Private health care. Health tax credits. Okay, yeah. Just looking around here, because as you can tell, I've not played all this. I played some turns of this. Food Standards Agency. Whatever. It's the FDA. State Health Service. Okay, here we go. The State Health Service. Let's see what this is. Major operations. What? Okay, I guess we can't go beyond whatever this is. Life-threatening major operations. This is, I guess, the only range we can. All major operations, serious illness only. Some prevention. Okay. Again, the federal government doesn't really handle any of this. It does have the VA, the Veterans Administration, that it does handle for the soldiers. And that's about it. The rest is up to state by states. Now, the federal government does give a lot of money to the states to handle that. But that's sort of a state by state thing for what the federal government pays for and how they handle it. So I don't know that that's really a thing for faith school subsidies. Well, basically none. Yeah. Okay, there are some. Okay, again, you can see here for this is Britain, petrol tax. You can go to 9 out of 10 Americans or more, and they won't know what petrol is. And they'll know what gas is, gas tax, sure. Tobacco, there is a federal gas tax. There, oh, sales tax. Here we go. Here we go. Again, and I know there's a VAT tax, which is slightly different than a sales tax. I'm not going to try to. Sales tax is a class of regressive tax, which means it does not take into account the ability to pay. Not true. Critics argue that it affects the poor disproportionately and thus it increases inequality. Well, there is a way to make it non-regressive, but it is a basic thing. Okay, there is no federal sales tax. So all sales tax are state and local. State taxes, and then you can get down to cities. Cities can put on a sales tax. Near where I live, it's about a 1% difference depending which county you're in for sales taxes. So if you're going to buy an automobile, you're more likely to buy it in the other county that's very near, because if people are paying attention and it's driven out a lot of car businesses, because 1% on an automobile can be a bit of a significant thing. But if you're buying some fast food or something, yeah, you don't care about 1%. But again, there are no federal, it's not just the amount or whatever, there is no federal sales tax. They have no influence over that whatsoever. Charity tax relief, okay, taxing policies, there is some of that. Car tax. Oh, here we go. There is, to the best of my knowledge, unless it's... No, I don't think there's any federal car tax. Okay? Most of the gas taxes are state. I think there is a federal gas tax. Again, I know those of you who've made it this far. I did have a degree in political science, but hell, the federal government and all of its taxes is a big subject in and of itself. I think there's a federal gas tax, but most gasoline tax is state taxes, and it's supposed to be just to go to pay for roads and bridges and car things, things that cars deal with. And so it's basically a use tax for road maintenance is what it's supposed to be. This is why electric cars are going to kill the system, because we get money for the roads here in California from the gas taxes, and if you're not having any gas automobiles, how are you going to collect? Just tax everybody's electricity? I don't know. Okay. Property tax. There is to the best of my knowledge, no federal property taxes. To the best of my knowledge. Unless there's something on like federal land. So it would have to be in a place that is not part of a state in the United States. Like Washington, D.C., or again on a national park. There are a few rare things that were grandfathered in, like ranches or homes inside of what has become national park or national forests. Those are two different things. More national forest, though. Okay, so again, there is no federal property tax, as far as I know. Can prove me wrong below. Alcohol tax, yes. Capital gains tax, yes. There is federal that. Health credits, yes. Airlines tax, yes. There is that. Okay, so there are some of these, but a lot of these, they just don't exist for the federal government. Okay, clean energy subsidies, yeah, there is that kind of stuff. Labor laws. Don't know a lot about in this field, but most of the labor laws, and let's see, what do they say? Labor laws are basic restrictions on workers' right to strike. Okay, capitalists argue that such restrictions are vital to prevent workers pro-employer. You have okay, workers such as power station workers, policemen, drivers from holding country to ransom. Trade union is considered the right to strike as fundamental. Okay. Basically, there are no federal labor laws in this regards, unless you're a federal employee. So federal labor laws, as far as I know, and for most situations, are entirely only affecting federal employees. And they may be remembering back in the days when the guys that sit in the control towers, air traffic controllers, the federal air traffic controllers went on strike during Reagan's presidency way back then. And because they were considered essential workers, like policemen, and not train drivers, but federal policemen, federal essential workers, whatever those may be versus unessential. Essential would be things like, hey, we got to keep the airlines flying for safety reasons. If the Army is not allowed to strike. Okay, so if you are a federal employee, there are federal laws regarding your right to do this. Otherwise, things like train drivers, power station workers in most cases, there may be a few that are government owned or something, but in most cases, power station workers can strike anytime they want to, as far as I know, because it's a private company. So unless you're a federal worker, there's nothing they can do about this. There are no federal labor laws unless you're talking about federal employees. Otherwise, those are basically not around. Nuclear fusion, decommission at end of life. Nuclear fusion is a source of energy, reduces CO2 emission, reduces gas. Yes, nuclear fusion is a wonderful. Oh, yeah, fusion, not fission. Fish. No, that's fission. Fission, nuclear fission. Okay, environmentalists tend to prefer wind and solar. Yes. This is federal. Well, there are some federal regulations. That's getting a little bit. Clean Air Act. Okay. There is the Clean Air Act that the federal government has set up. Now, how does the federal government get away with some of that? When I just said all powers not specifically given to the federal government are reserved to the states. Well, under FDR, there was some court case rulings that made it to the Supreme Court that somebody was doing sort of a largish back garden, to you British, but backyard growing vegetables for commercial sales, but to like his local community. But it was deemed that he had to go under FDR's federal regulations because it was potentially possible that someone would show up with a truck and go, yeah, I'll buy all your watermelons or tomatoes or whatever it was he was growing, and then take those and sell them in a different state. It was potentially possible. Now, there was absolutely no evidence that whatever this guy was selling, that was mostly, again, to like his local community and, probably less than an acre of property or whatever that he was doing, that any of it had ever left the state. But it was potentially possible. So the Commerce Clause under the United States Constitution that regulates commerce between the states has been expanded into so many other areas of it. And so energy, because energy is often, the only state that I know has its own energy grid is the state of Texas. And they basically say hell no to be dependent or be even integrated, meaning if there's a power blackout in Louisiana, the guy in Texas looking across, and there's no way to transfer power out of Texas because they don't want the cascading power failures that have happened in other regions. Now, some states are very small in the Northeast, but that blinked out like a quarter of the American populace at one time. That happened. But so Texas is the only state that has its own power grid situation. Water safety laws, recycling. Supporters argue, okay. Recycling, this has absolutely nothing to do with the federal government. I can't imagine of a single thing that recycling in the federal government has to do with bottle banks, recycling centers. None of this is federal government. It is all purely state. Close, revert, change, because I don't want. That is all purely state governments. The federal government has no child benefit. Okay, that might sort of be food stamps. Yes. Social care. I guess with older, that's Social Security. Okay, yes, there is Social Security payments and then Medicare for them as well. State pensions. Okay, well, wait a minute. So again, I'm not very much familiar with Britain and how Britain works. And I do know that there are some sort of state pensions, but I don't get what social care here. Okay, so this is what is supposed to be called Medicare here, I guess, is under, but that is part of, but they're state pensions. Social Security is, and I don't know how it works, rather than provide for themselves to retirement. The state pensions can guarantee minimum standard of living for the elderly. Be aware that as the life expectancy rises, the cost of paying out pensions increase hugely. The level of state pensions may encourage or discourage citizens from saving to private pension plans. Okay. In the United States, they take a percentage of your salary out of your paycheck to put it into Social Security. You do not have a choice over this. And they were supposed to be saving all this money up and getting interest payments off of it, basically. But unfortunately, the government has been dipping into the fund to pay for other things to then pay it back some other time. So it's a bit of a Ponzi scheme. Okay, but in the United States, the Social Security, what they're calling state pensions here, everyone pays into it. And okay. I don't. I'm not entirely sure. Yeah, you can rate, and it's basically at a fixed rate. To again, prove me if I'm wrong. It's at a fixed amount, adjusted currently, and yes, Congress can change some of this stuff, but it's basically set up at a. So Congress might be able to change it, but close revert changes. Basically, to change something in Social Security, it would have to be coming one of these types of things. You have to get Congress to approve it, any sort of changes. So it's at a fixed rate adjusted by the rate of inflation. So I don't know. Let's say it's, just for state of argument, it's $500 a month. Set at some point, and now it's at $1,000 a month because that was set back in 1960 something, and there's been a lot of inflation since then, or whatever. So it's at a fixed rate, as far as I know. Again, prove me wrong below. I'm sure some of what I'm saying is wrong somewhere, but yeah. State housing, yeah, there is HUD. So there is that. Disability benefits, again, most of that would be on the state level. Now, the federal government gives the state money for this family planning. What is family planning as they see it here? Family planning to improve sexual health in your community. Typical services include education, medical advice, and contraception. This program will enable individuals. Why don't they just say abortion clinics? I mean, what's so radical about that? This is how much abortion clinics you want to do. Family planning empowers women, and reduces the number of babies born into poverty. Does it? Has anybody ever figured that one out? Really? That's what they say, but I don't know. Okay, abortion clinics. And how much does the federal government fund them? Yeah, they do. Genital mutilation ban. That would be super controversial if you were to try that in America. But it's not. So this is banned for females. I think I don't know that there's any ban on that in the United States. Prove me if I'm wrong again. Okay, border controls, yeah, that's something the federal government gets to do. Foreign aid, something the federal government does, of course. Citizenship test, yes. Military spending, yes. Biofuel subsidies, yeah, that's the federal government doing that. Subsidized school buses, what the hell? State subsidies for school buses ensure every kid has an efficient, safe journey, whilst reducing the number of school run trips carried out by parents, just reducing. What? To the best of my knowledge, there's absolutely nothing like this in America. Subsidized school buses. Parents are also happy knowing that they're proper. What? Not federal, yeah, state, sure. Well, even hardly state. It would be up to your school district to buy buses. That seems silly. There's school buses all over America. But federal doesn't have anything to do with that. So again, I'm not looking at whether this stuff exists in America or not. I'm looking at does it exist in the for the federal government to deal with this. Okay, road building. Although environmental soften argue more roads just lead to more congestion, not surprisingly, this isn't how most motorists feel. Building new roads is a very expensive and slow process, but some suggest it's vital to keep her. Okay, well, to the best of my knowledge, again, prove me wrong, the federal government only builds directly federal highways. So, and now there was under Obama the plan to shovel-ready projects that, oh God, that was a biggest multi-billion-dollar scam that almost nothing got done. Nothing was. It just went into the state and local government coffers to spend on whatever they felt like. Actually, one of the biggest scams. Obama, I think, believed it, but he was taken for a ride. The federal government does provide, but it's funding through the Congress. That would be another one of these things that you're providing money that would be along like a tourism or diplomatic or other sort of thing. I would say other outside of federal highways, biofuel subsidies. Okay, well, I guess we've looked at most of these things. Limited automated trading. Stock market crash. This has nothing to do with the federal government. To the best of my knowledge, this is entirely up to the stock market and to the different indexes and the stock, how much they want to do. That is not a federal government thing, to the best of my knowledge. Can prove me wrong. Yeah, I think we've looked at a lot of this. Intellectual property rights. Okay, yeah, that is under the federal. I don't know how that. Hunting game restrictions. There's a very little of that. I don't know. Now, I thought this was interesting here, that parents don't like federal firearms stuff. Hey, right now, American parents are loving guns. They're buying guns. The hardest thing to buy in America is ammo right now. You want to flex big? Show off all your collection of ammo. Who cares about your expensive cars? How much ammo you have right now in America? Others are concerned about gun leads to gun crime. No one in America, even my anti-gun relatives, thinks that others are concerned that gun ownership leads to gun crime. Nobody left, right, or central thinks gun ownership leads to gun crime. They think, well, unless you're talking about like madmen with guns. If you just think that it's holding up liquor stores, no one thinks gun ownership increases, low-level gun crimes in America. No one, right, left, or center. They see it as other thing, not so much gun crime, but just people doing stupid shit with guns. Is what they're afraid of. Alcohol law, I don't know. Prohibition or minimum age, I don't know. Or strong restrictions, I guess, if you want to redo a prohibition. Okay, close, revert changes, get out of it. Okay, that's my quick look at what is wrong with democracy for dealing with the American start here. I think this is really bad. It needs a massive rework if you're not trying to bamboozle us. I don't quite get what this loyalty here element means for the America. I do know in a lot of European countries that they'll have a cabinet with people from different political parties to get coalition governments. Briefly, Britain did have one of those. And I also know in Britain, even because my understanding, again, correct me if I'm wrong, in Britain, all cabinet members are also members of, presumably, the House of Commons, maybe the House of Lords under the new system, I don't know. But it's changed over the years, I haven't been following. But are elected members of their political parties as well. But in the United States, if you're going to become a cabinet secretary, you have to leave whatever other job you have. So like if you're now somebody like oh boy, I always blank on these names. Well, I'm going to Google this. Yeah, Ben Carson. The brain surgeon, Ben Carson, is our secretary of the HUD. What is it? Housing and Urban Development. So we put a brain surgeon in charge of our housing and urban development. Ben Carson had never been in any elect. He was running for president at one point, but he never held any elected office. Never was in any government thing. So loyalty, compared for the European system, that this matters is silly, because, and I get the political power element. I do like a lot of the way this game is structured. The political capital, I should say here. I do like that. But if it was shown that someone was being disloyal, it takes zero political capital to fire him instantly. If they just, oh, he's been disloyal, boom, bye. And it does, that is not a problem. And okay, so they're different sort of, don't know, sympathies for the poor. Okay, I don't know. I don't know why people want people to be poor. Why does he want people to be poor? I don't get this. Sympathies promoting to have more poor people. Okay, I don't know. Capitalists and want more poor people. I don't know why you're thinking that, but okay. It's sympathies for poor, but I don't know. Ethnic minorities. Right. Okay. So yeah, I don't quite get. Some of this is sort of wrong for America. That's probably very right for Britain and other European countries. So yeah, okay. So if you made it this far, you've probably already subscribed. Please post your comments, and I'm very serious. Tell me where I'm wrong with some of the stuff, because, like I say, the U.S. government, the federal, state, and local systems are all a big thing, and it's different in one state to the next. So I'm sure I was wrong in some particulars, but this is what is wrong with democracy for the American. Not edition, but playing as America. This might work very well to play as a governor of a state. You know, pick a state: California, New York State, Texas, Oklahoma. I don't care. You know, pick a state. A lot of this would be pertained. Now, of course, you wouldn't have any foreign policy or military. Well, you do have some National Guard. I don't know how much the state budget goes into that, but you wouldn't have any border control. So you'd have mostly none of that. And so you'd have to get rid of some of the stuff, but it might work better for the state government. But this just doesn't work for the federal government. And this should not be set up this way for that. And if you want to hire me as a consultant to help reorganize your game, you could do that too. So thanks everyone. See you next time for more actual historical gaming.